wildfires have already turned parts of Southern California into a lunar landscape. And now a major hurricane is bearing down on Mexico's Baja Peninsula.
Authorities are trying to get thousands of people to evacuate before it hits land. Here's reporter John Jessup.
In Southern California, the fight to beat back the uncontrollable blazes is taking a physical and an emotional toll. For those who barely had time to escape,
I had to run. I was like shaking to get my daughter. I grabbed her from her sleep.
For others, like Elizabeth Reichel, who are staying put, trying to save their homes.
We've been watering all day, trying to sprinkle. They told us, of course, that wouldn't do any good, but it makes us feel like we're doing something.
To those who feared the worst about the fate of their personal effects.
You could see the house behind us in flames. You could see this house in flames. You know, the whole neighborhood in flames, but our one house, just nothing. You know, nothing happened. I can't explain it. I'm so happy that, you know, I have everything, my possessions, my pictures, but to see my neighbors with nothing anymore just breaks my heart.
The fires destroyed more than 50 homes, and they're threatening 12,000 others. Also under siege, a network of communications towers for local radio, TV, law enforcement, and even Los Angeles International Airport. While many people have run for cover, others have ignored the mandatory evacuations.
When you hear from law enforcement anything about evacuation, follow their orders, because there's so many that think that they have to stay behind and protect their home, but it always they sometimes pay dearly for that.
Government officials in Mexico have the same concern with Hurricane Jimena. They're trying to convince people to evacuate, but many tourists and residents in nearby Cabo San Lucas so far have ignored the warning.
We're staying at the Las Cascadas. It's pretty, it looks like, you know, it's pretty solid, not a lot of loose things to blow around, and everything is cement and concrete.
This woman says, we're trying to think ahead and fill up the tank because the hurricane that's coming has us worried because they're saying it's a Category 4. The storm is roaring toward the Baja Peninsula with wind speeds nearing 155 miles an hour, and forecasters predict Jimena may make landfall overnight. John Jessup, CBN News.
Our prayers certainly go out to those in California, and I hope the people in the Baja know what's bearing down on them. Boy, in my recollection, I don't remember a hurricane on that side.
I don't remember a hurricane there either, but you know, please pray, because there's so many migrant workers that are living in shacks there. I mean, 75, 50-mile-an-hour winds, and that would be just a
and it would just wipe them out.
Yeah,
so.
We work with an orphanage there, too, that really needs prayer, so please keep them in your prayers.
All right. Well, Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN Newsroom. Lee?
Gordon's same-sex marriage became legal in Vermont today. In April, Vermont became the first state to legalize gay marriage through the legislature and not the courts. So far, only a handful of couples, we understand, have received marriage licenses. Vermont, though, becomes the fifth state to allow same-sex marriage. The other states are Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and Iowa. Montana may become the first state to declare that doctor-assisted suicide is protected under the state's constitution. The so-called right to die issue is going before the state Supreme Court. Oregon and Washington already allow doctors to prescribe medication to help people kill themselves, but voters approved those laws in statewide referendums. Churches in Montana have been vocal on both sides of the issue. One deacon at a liberal Episcopal church sees it as a matter of choice. He tells the New York Times, if we say that God has given everyone free will, that means God has given you the opportunity to do things right and to do things wrong. Former Miss California USA Carrie Prejean is suing state pageant officials for religious discrimination, libel, and slander. They fired Prejean in June, saying she missed several scheduled appearances. But Prejean's attorney says she was ousted because she affirmed traditional marriage when a pageant judge asked her about gay marriage. Prejean's lawsuit also says pageant directors told her not to mention God in public prior to the event. The Space Shuttle Discovery astronauts are conducting scientific experiments at the International Space Station. Discovery is carrying more than just supplies for its mission, though. As Gary Lane reports, one astronaut has brought a piece of Christian missionary history along for the ride.
Astronaut Patrick Forrester is paying tribute to Christian missionaries around the world on his third shuttle flight. The veteran pilot is bringing a part of Nate Saint's plane into space with him. Saint and 4 missionaries were killed by an isolated tribe in the jungles of Ecuador in 1956. Forrester says he has a heart for Christian missions and wants to honor the men and women who risk their lives around the world. I talked with Mission Aviation Fellowship spokesman Gene Jordan, who says Forrester learned about Saint and the MAF ministry at a Stephen Curtis Chapman concert.
Following that, he read the book by Elizabeth Elliot, Through Gates of Splendor, and that really interested him in what missionary aviation was doing.
And what specifically, what piece of the plane does he have with him?
A piece of the original battery box went up, something that it laid under the sands of the Kudadai River for many years until it was uncovered in 1994.
Saint's son Steve said his father would be amazed to think a piece of his plane was going up into space. Technology and capabilities he couldn't have imagined 53 years ago. Yet Jordan suggests Nate Saint was a missionary aviation pioneer.
While Nate had this driving desire for people to come to know Jesus Christ, he used the technology available at that time, right after World War II, to push out what missions were able to do through the use of aviation. So we want to use technology, whether it be computers or airplanes or whatever, to let people know the oldest story in the book of love.
And Forrester used modern-day technology to take a piece of missionary aviation history into space. The 16-year NASA veteran suggests he may sign up to be a missionary pilot once he retires. Gary Lane, CBN News.
They will get one great pilot when he does that, Gordon. But, you know, Nate Saint must have been a great pilot too, Gordon. Every time I see that video of him landing that plane on the riverbank, I think, wow, what courage he had.
He was also a pioneer. He came up with that method. You saw that bucket that was being lifted off. He came up with the method of circling around, and if the plane circles around, you can keep that bucket stationary in a center point. And that was unheard of at the time, and he pioneered it, and that's how they made the initial contact with those tribes. It's an incredible story, and I'm sure he's getting a smile right now as to what's happening with the remnant of his plane.
That is an incredible story. If you haven't read Through Gates of Splendor, it's a great book.
An Oklahoma pastor is being remembered as a sweet, loving woman of God. About 1,000 people turned out to mourn Pastor Carol Daniels. Daniels' body was found in her church last week with several slashes to her neck and body. No arrests have been made, but Daniels' brother is asking people to pray that the family finds the strength to forgive the murderer. A coalition is filing a ballot initiative today to preserve traditional marriage in the nation's capital. The group Stand for Marriage DC wants voters to decide whether homosexual marriage is legal. In May, the DC City Council passed a measure that allows homosexual marriages performed elsewhere to be recognized in the district. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbn.com.